And let's bring you up to speed with the top stories now. Some breaking news first. Fidel Castro has died. Our Latin America editor Lucia Newman joins us by phone in Santiago, Chile. What can you tell us?
But this should not really be surprising, but it is still stunning. Fidel Castro has been this larger-than-life figure that has dominated Cuba since the 1959 revolution. He had been ill, as we all know, for a decade. He had not been seen in public since his birthday in August. And even then, he was barely seen, sitting, looking very, very frail. So it was clearly just a matter of time, but this is going to really have an enormous emotional, psychological impact on Cubans. He had not been ruling Cuba for over a decade. His brother Raul Castro is the president. He is only 5 years younger. So this really does spell the beginning of the end of the Castro era. Raul Castro, as I say, is only 5 years younger than Fidel. He is due to step down as president very soon as well. But again, as I say, we knew he had not been well, but we could probably expect a state funeral, a very important funeral to be announced, but there are no details yet available.
Lucia, as you mentioned, his brother Raul is in control now. Does his death mean anything in terms of raise any questions about a transition of power?
No, it doesn't. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. The transition already has taken place. It took place a long time ago. Fidel Castro would occasionally, or has been up until now, occasionally coming out with statements, editorials in the Communist Party newspaper Grandma, giving his opinions about things, for example, such as the visit of President Obama to Cuba, which annoyed him very much. Obama did not even pay a courtesy call to the former president while he was there. He said that he distrusted the intentions of the United States. But, as time has been going by, we've been hearing less and less from the former president, Fidel Castro. And on August the 13th, which was his 90th birthday, rather, there was a big sort of a celebration for him around the country. People paid homage to Fidel Castro. They recalled the role he had played in the Cuban Revolution and bringing it about. But we really had not been hearing from him because it was common knowledge, it was public knowledge that he was not well and he was becoming weaker and weaker.
And of course his passage has implications. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much.
This is an ABC News special report.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Betts at ABC News World Headquarters in New York. We are interrupting our programming to bring you some breaking news. ABC News has learned that longtime Cuban leader Fidel Castro has died. He was 90 years old. His death was announced by his brother Raul on Cuban state television just a few moments ago. Fidel Castro ruled Cuba for close to 50 years, seizing power in the Cuban Revolution of 1959 before eventually handing over control to his brother Raul in 2008. ABC's Jim Avila has more on the life of the revolutionary figure.
For a half-century, Fidel Castro ruled Cuba while the world changed around him. 50 years of isolation finally ended only after he left power, and only with his tacit blessing. Castro remained skeptical and suspicious of the U.S. right up to his death, defiantly commenting after President Obama's historic visit that Cuba will never forget the Bay of Pigs invasion and does not need America. His defense of his communist revolution never faltering.
I am a communist, a Marxist, socialist communist. I am not afraid to say I am a communist.
Fidel Castro was born in 1926 out of wedlock to a wealthy Cuban landowner and his maid. He went to Catholic schools and then studied law. His two passions were baseball, he was very good at it, and politics. He became an activist for the poor and working class. In 1956, after being expelled by Cuba's American-supported dictator Fulgencio Batista, Castro returned secretly with his brother Raul, Argentinian Marxist rebel leader Che Guevara, and others. They hid out in the Sierra Maestra Mountains, from which they waged a guerrilla war.
The road to Havana paved with glory for rebel chieftain Fidel Castro.
Castro finally expelled Batista and took over. Fidel had promised democracy, but squashed all dissent with jail or expulsions, even executions. He nationalized all U.S. businesses. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy, just elected, approved a CIA-trained invasion force of 1,300 Cuban exiles who went ashore at the Bay of Pigs. Castro demolished them, a huge propaganda victory. In 1962, American spy planes discovered Castro had let the Soviets put nuclear missiles in Cuba.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States.
Yes, we were very close to the nuclear war, extremely close.
Ultimately, the Soviets removed the missiles. Fidel continued to promote leftist movements in Latin America, where he remained popular until his death. Even Castro's critics praised his advances in healthcare and in education. But the inefficiency of Cuba's Soviet-style economy produced dissent. In 1980, more than 125,000 Cubans, some expelled, many allowed to just leave, braved rough seas and dehydration to come to the United States in the Mariel boat lift. In the early 1990s, the fall of the USSR cost Cuba billions of dollars in Soviet aid and trade, leading to widespread shortages and rationing.
With the demise of the Soviet Union, we have suffered the equivalent to a treason. We have felt betrayed.
Castro fought back by courting tourism and business. In 2006, just before intestinal surgery, he gave up power temporarily to his younger brother Raul. He never took the reins again, made it official in 2008, but he was not totally gone. Started writing newspaper columns, receiving visitors, including Hugo Chavez of Venezuela. Then suddenly, in the summer of 2010, he began displaying his indomitable drive again in public, giving TV interviews, laying flowers at the tomb of the fallen, exhorting the communist youth, and addressing the Cuban parliament. Now the world will see how a new era of Cuban-American diplomacy changes his island home, with Fidel Castro gone, and the Americans gradually returning. It may be no longer Fidel Castro's Cuba.
This is some shit. What I do at work.
There, just hold it.
No, it's facing me.
It's live. Oh, sorry.
It's facing me.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
I'm not the one here. You better erase that.
It doesn't erase. It's
okay. You're live.
Okay.
Yeah, ahora sí.
Guys, major news day. Major news day. I'm not reporting for Telemundo right now. I'm off duty, but I'm here at La Carreta, a major Cuban place, like one of the exiles capitals, so to speak. We're in Miami. I'm here.
Jorge, George Garcia here, and this is a great day for our country, for Cuba, and for los abuelos, especially my grandparents who passed away. They didn't get to see this day, but this is a great day for Cuba.
I don't know about you, but I got very emotional. We just got the news, literally, I think I just got it on my phone, the alert, I don't know, like 20 minutes ago, and all of a sudden, like this wave of emotion.
You just don't, you feel like it's surreal, like is it really happening? Are we really going through this right now? You know, it's something that we've talked about our whole entire lives, like not about Cuba, the freedom of Cuba Libre, and finally the guy is dead, you know? So it's a great time for us. It's a really great time. No, thank you, man.
Well, guys, as you can see, there's a lot of people. Why don't you pan over and show all the people that are here at La Carreta on Bird Road and 87th Avenue. For those of you who are not from South Florida, you may not know, but this is one of the places where the Cuban community here in Miami come to speak their mind, to get updated on what's going on in Cuban politics. It's where a lot of our news stations, come to get sound bites and interviews with the Cuban community here in the United States, especially here in Miami. And so that's obviously where everybody is right now, right? I'm, again, not reporting for the station, but I'm reporting on my own because we're all off call pretty much. Obviously, our station is here and they're going to be coming very soon. But I live blocks away from the restaurant. A lot of excitement. I'm very curious to know what other people are thinking. So I'm going to talk to more people. But I've heard Fidel Castro has died. It's announced. His brother announced it on Cuban state television at the age of 90. And this community here in South Florida, especially
right, breaking news coming in. Revolutionary Cuban icon Fidel Castro has passed away at the age of 90. The announcement has just been made. Cuban icon Fidel Castro passes away at the age of 90. We're trying to get more updates. Cuba's Fidel Castro dies at the age of 90. This is the big story that we're getting in this Saturday morning. Fidel Castro ruled Cuba as a one-party state for almost half a century before handing over the power to his brother Raul in 2008. His supporters praised him as a man who had given Cuba back to the people, but his opponents accused him of brutally suppressing opposition. News just in. Fidel Castro, Cuba's former president and leader of the communist revolution, has passed away at the age of 90. The announcement was made by the state television. We have Mosmi Singh, who's with us on the phone line. Mosmi, big news coming in this morning. Tragic, really. Fidel Castro passing away at the age of 90. He had, however, passed over power to his younger brother Raul in 2008.
That's right, Simi. We have confirmation on that count that Fidel Castro has passed away. He's no more. He was a controversial figure and created a lot of different viewpoints. He was decorated with various international awards, and his supporters also laud him as a socialist, an anti-imperialist, and a humanitarian. But there were, as I said, that there were divisive views about him. He was also a controversial figure. Critics viewed him as a totalitarian, a dictator whose administration saw multiple human rights abuses in Cuba and exodus of more than 1 million Cubans. Although he will be remembered for his non-aligned leadership in the non-aligned movement and getting Cuba to the international stage